Welcome back, guys, to our show today here at the Milford Indoor Tennis YouTube channel. I am here with Ryan Bean. We are very excited to have another edition of this with you guys. How are you doing today, Ryan?
I am doing great. You know, we're trying to be safe, and unfortunately, we can't be close to each other and chat on the court. So the next best thing is to sit down and talk to you virtually and get into some issues within the tennis world and talk about stuff that's going on at the club. So I am very excited to be here, and a week into the holidays, I'm still here. So that is a good thing.
And I couldn't be more grateful to be still doing this with you, to still be working at the club. It's very nice to see that everyone's still getting out, still being safe, which is always a plus when you get to play tennis inside as well.
Absolutely. How was your weekend? What did you do? Anything fun and exciting?
What did I do this weekend? I stayed home. I started decorating for Christmas. It's the holiday, so I feel like it's just that time of year where you're just trying to wind down and figure out what you have to get your whole family.
Yeah, it was cold, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's still cold. It's still cold.
Yeah, man, I went up to Mystic and met my family who lives in Mass, and we had a little Christmas in the Villages near Mystic Aquarium, their parking lot. So although it isn't what we normally do, it was still actually great to connect and see my parents and my nieces and nephews and whatnot. So like I said, although it wasn't what we're used to doing, better than nothing. So
when you say Villages, I think of like the 1800s. We visited the Village today. What did you do there?
When I say the Villages, I think of the villages in Florida where all the retirees go. So you don't know about this place.
No.
There's a place in the Villages about Central Florida, right in the middle, and it's I don't even know
I don't need to know about that.
There, but it's impressive. You know what is super popular there is tennis and pickleball. That's for sure.
Speaking about pickleball, Ryan, we have someone new coming to the Milford Indoor Tennis family in pickleball. Who is that?
Yes, so very excited to welcome Betsy Hulme to our team. She has taught pickleball for a very long time, was a PE teacher back in the day as well. A super knowledgeable, extremely good pickleball player, has a lot of accomplishments on and off the court, has placed and won medals in various state tournaments, including the U.S. Open down I think in Naples, Florida. So anyways, we're very excited to have her here. She is starting this week. She'll be here on Tuesdays and Thursdays exclusively, pretty much all day, helping run some open plays. She's here to do private lessons, whether that be one-on-one or group, as well as running our introduction to pickleball class. So we are very excited to have her. I know that she's excited to join, and can't wait for everybody to get to meet her. And start developing some good relationships.
What does she have to offer in terms of not just her experience, because she definitely has that? What do you think she has to offer from her knowledge of the game?
Honestly, she does a really good job of communicating to her players how to do things, and really breaks down strategy really well. So step by step, very digestible information, which I think sometimes when you get on a pickleball court, there's a lot to learn, especially as an introduction to pickleball clinic would go. You have to learn the scoring. You've got to understand how to hit certain shots. She does a really, really good job of breaking it down into small digestible pieces. So I think that's a huge plus for our new players to the sport. And then as far as our intermediate and advanced, they know her well from around the area. And like I said, we're very excited to welcome them into the club and to get things going. So again, very excited, very happy to have her.
Very excited to meet her. I haven't met her yet. So maybe today or tomorrow when I come in, I'll be able to meet her.
Yeah, she'll be here tomorrow because we are recording this on a Monday. So if you're seeing this, she'll be here today. Absolutely.
Perfect.
So I wanted to get into a couple of things with you. Following professional tennis probably a little bit more, and by probably definitely a little bit more than I do. As far as what's going on the men's and the women's side, I've always been a fan, obviously, of the sport, and I've always followed it more or less, I'll be honest, like through the majors and some of the Masters series on the men's and women's side. One thing that strikes me is that the passing of the torch. So on the men's side, we've had, our big four, Nadal, Federer, Djokovic and Murray, and now Murray's kind of fallen off the last couple of years. So you still have those three players. But we have a generation of young players on the men's side that are knocking at the door that really haven't gotten their foot past maybe an inch into the door. Where on the women's side, I feel like the passing of the torch has already happened. Serena and her sister Venus have really kind of controlled the narrative for the last couple of decades, and now you get this young generation headed up by Naomi Osaka, just to name one, but a lot of younger players that have kind of put their entire foot in the door and are halfway through. What are your thoughts on the men's game as far as the women's game and where they are?
It's a very broad question in my mind from all the experts that I've spoken to. And while I do have some knowledge from behind the scenes and what I've watched, I feel like from that perspective, it's hard to see how the men's tour has progressed from a marketing standpoint that hasn't involved the big three or the big four, with if you include Murray in that conversation. You can include a lot of people in that conversation who's a part of that big four besides Murray, like Wawrinka and at one point Del Potro or Cilic, people that have won Grand Slams. And the men just seem to have the big three constantly dominate compared to the others on a more consistent basis. And compared to the women have such a diverse group of individuals who are trying to battle for the same thing, just like in the men's side, but they're a lot closer in talent, in my opinion, versus the men. The men, it was the first time just this past year where Thiem won his first Grand Slam. He was runner-up in 3 Grand Slams before, but then all of a sudden he wins his first Grand Slam. We all thought it was going to be on clay court because he's the Prince of Clay, right behind Rafael Nadal. But then all of a sudden we see him win against a fellow next gen, as people like to label it, as Alexander Zverev. So we're seeing maybe the passing of the torch on the men's side, but in the women's side, it's already happened. We've had winners like Bianca Andreescu, Sofia Kenin, Naomi Osaka. Who else besides Serena Williams that has won Grand Slam? Angelique Kerber at one time when she was a bit younger. You have so many women that have already pushed through to the top because of how different their game styles are compared to the traditional women's game, which is a pure baseliner in my opinion. So having people like Sofia Kenin win, like Naomi Osaka, who have personalities. I mean, Osaka especially, you see her and people know her, and Coco Gauff, 15 years old, 16 I believe now, but just having the ability to push through and beat top tier players at such a young age.
And I think, to that point, I guess my concern would be on the men's side, those younger players, they might have some wins over the top 3 players.
Yeah.
In lower level tournaments, but once it gets to the grand stage, like there aren't a lot of upsets. Correct me if I'm wrong, where you've got Naomi Osaka beating Serena on the grand stage. You've got these younger players that are taking it to these veterans on a grand stage. It doesn't seem like either they're affected by it, or maybe just the talent pool is closer to the top than on the men's side.
It's hard to say, because when you see the level of talent from all the guys in the top 10, you know how good they are and how good they can be. It just becomes more of a mental game, I guess, in my perspective, because whether or not they crack under pressure from everything, I mean, we saw at the ATP finals too with Daniil Medvedev. I mean, Medvedev last year had probably one of the best seasons in tennis that I've ever seen, making a final or winning a title through 6 tournaments, I believe, during the summer run. And it's players like that we see that can go really high and then really low, compared to what the big three have always done, is just stay within the top 10. And we're starting to see that consistency now, but it's just, how can we get them to be winning Grand Slams? And personally, it's going to take a lot for them to get to that next level, even though they're already there.
Yeah.
So when people say, when are they going to win a Grand Slam? Sometimes I just say to them, when Novak, Roger, and Rafa retire. Because
Which is,
it's which is never, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Well,
Because if I was to go in order, it's probably going to go Roger, Rafa, then Novak in terms of retirements, which
mhm,
I hope doesn't happen anytime soon. But that's the reality of sports. It's
yep.
just going to be hard to see how good players have to be to beat these guys. I mean,
Yeah.
it took Novak to hit a ball at an umpire for a player to beat him on hard court. I
Yep.
mean, the only people that beat them are themselves, literally. So
And
it becomes a whole different topic.
well, no, and I think a follow up to that would be, where is the game going to be once these legends retire and get off the court? I think on the women's side, we're pretty much almost there, and it's in a great spot marketing wise. It's a growing sport on the women's side. They've done a great job marketing, and they have really, vibrant young stars that have
Hmm.
no problem stepping into the spotlight. Where on the men's side, I feel like if the three of them retired today, who would lead the fight? Like, who is that person who is identifiable with the broad spectrum of,
Hmm.
watchers at home and people who follow the game? Where I feel like, you've got Roger, who is, phenomenal as far as what he does on the court, but even better off the court. And he's just someone who everybody feels like they can trust, and who's reliable and personable, someone who you feel like you could always just go and sit and talk to. And then you've got Novak, who's just fiery and emotional and a little bit less predictable. And then you got Nadal, who's just a competitor, like just unbelievable grinder. And like, those are three completely different personalities that, for the last 20 years have kind of carried the sport.
Yeah.
So I wonder, what do you think about that?
You are definitely right with the passing of the torch in the women's game. It's already happened. I think with their marketing, they've already started introducing newer players and younger talents their to their audience, so people start to get an understanding of them. But for the men, it's whoever's winning the tournament. It's the big three, and then maybe the other guys that are in the top 10, but people won't really recognize them. So their games are very similar in terms of the talent between the top 10, except for the top three. And anyone can beat anyone, but it's hard to say who will be the next dominant player, because it doesn't seem like there is one dominant player for the
Right.
men
Yep.
after those big three, because you have guys like Wawrinka, who is still really, really talented, still really, really good. Same thing with Dimitrov on his good days. He's very good. He's very talented. So you have experienced veterans on tour that have had good runs and have big titles, but it's how can you market each one? And I feel like I talk more personally on the marketing side of which kid growing up playing tennis is going to know which player at a tournament, who's going to be more
Right.
recognizable. It comes with big personalities, it comes with winning, but the only thing that tennis is missing is big personalities if they're not winning. So at least
Correct.
on the men's side. The women's
Yep.
side, people start to understand and see, all right, these are the women that are winning. There are more players that they can recognize off the titles that they've won. Men, they need someone to do something that's not necessarily off the court, but needs to be recognized on the court if they
Yep.
don't win the tournament.
And to bring this conversation kind of full circle within, I think it's a really interesting point to make as far as the men's and the women's and the involvement of American players.
Hmm.
So, I was lucky enough to grow up in the heyday on the men's side, where we had, a really solid players, your Agassiz, your Samprases, players that, would always consistently compete at the top, which I think
Hmm.
obviously made the game a lot more um, watchable here in the States, and
Yeah.
popular, right? Because you've got somebody who's stateside who you're rooting for. And then obviously with the women for the longest time with with Venus and with Serena and the Williams sisters, it's been I think that's one of the things that makes the sport a lot more popular in our country. Taking a look at where the women are in respects to young talent, and where the men are in respects to young talent. I don't see too many young Americans coming up and even being close to competing, as opposed to these young women on the American side who have done a great job competing and representing our country. I'm a little worried about, the sport in general and the popularity kind of falling off on the men's side. Do you think that has to do with player development or just opportunities, or is just the pool on the men's side bigger? I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a very common question when it comes to player development. I mean, a lot of the players that have been successful, I think on the women's side, there's a plethora of women that are ready to show how good they are. We've already seen that with Sophia Kenin. We saw that with Jennifer Brady this past summer during the COVID tennis era. We see that with Amanda Anisimova from Florida.
Yeah.
We see that with Coco Gauff, Katie McNally. You have so many more women that are ready to hit the next best thing, right?
Right.
Men's side, we have Taylor Fritz, we have Jack Sock, we have Steve Johnson, John Isner, Sam Querrey. You have a lot of these guys that people may know, but are not up there. I think the closest person we have to the next big thing for Frances Tiafoe. Why am I forgetting Frances? They'll hate me for missing that.
But even to those points though, like all those players, although they are young in the general population, they're actually like in tennis, like they're well established. They're into their games. It's not like this is their first or second year on the tour and they're just going through it. And I think that's one of the things that's concerning to me is, where is that young Coco Gauff type age player? Is it more difficult on the men's side because the strength, like you're a boy playing against men, as maybe that gap isn't as large on the women's side? I just feel like I haven't been excited for a young American in a long time. I honestly, I feel like the last young American I was excited about was Jack Sock. And I mean, he kind of has come and gone. He's still there, but he's not, he's never really taken that big step forward.
He had his flashes after Paris in 2017 when he won that Paris Masters title. He kind of went downhill. But he's still trying to get back to it. I mean, he's working with a new coach. He's still trying his best. And I mean, you have kids that look up to Frances Tiafoe, Jack Sock, maybe even Taylor Fritz, Riley Opelka now, excuse me, Tommy Paul. You have so many young Americans that develop through just I can't even think of how well they're developed, but it's just pushing to that next level because a lot of them play overseas. And I think personally, when I grew up playing on red clay, when I lived in Italy as a kid, it gave me an advantage of stroke production, footwork, more things along that nature. And even Jennifer Brady right now, a young American who played at UNC, she's training in Germany to be a better player. So, and Coco Gauff trains primarily in Florida, but she plays at the Mouratoglou Academy in France. So I interviewed Martin Blackman, who's the head of player development for the USTA last year in Atlanta. And when I asked him about him like dealing with players that don't necessarily want to play at the USTA campus, how do you support them in every way? And for him, it's just a matter of how we'll let them play wherever they want. Just let us know what you want us to do for you. But it shouldn't be like that in my mind.
No, that's a sad answer, unfortunately.
It's a sad answer because it should be, how can we make you comfortable with the coaches we have, and who do we need to bring in to make you stay at this campus? Like, yeah, you can build the biggest facilities and the best facilities, but if you don't have the personnel to have them stay there and work there, what do you offer?
Yeah, that was and that's kind of a question that I would have is like, do we even have the experts in this country to develop players that are going to compete at that top level? Because I think one of the things, at least in my perception over the years, is, we're very lucky to live in this country, and we have a lot of different options as far as sports and activities to do when we're young. Not necessarily all of our population, but the players that get into sports. You've got soccer, you've got basketball, you've got tennis, you've got swimming, you've got lacrosse, you have football. You have field hockey on the women's side. I mean, you have rugby, you have all these different types of things, and those are just the ones that kind of pop onto my head. And I feel like a lot of the other countries that are overseas in Europe, or they don't have all of those sports. It's more like soccer is huge, tennis is huge, and I feel like their options are more limited. So do you feel like that kind of blends into the opportunity for young players, and maybe that there's just a larger pool of more expertise out there to train players at a young age?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things, especially in the US. You have so many options at such a young age. I mean, when you send your kids away to camp, they usually play tennis or they have fun with the sport, but nothing develops until they want to make a decision of what sport they really want to focus on.
Right.
And in the US, like you said, tennis is a side note with everyone. Tennis is like a recreational sport for people, and that's not how it's seen overseas. That they see it as a way out. They see it as a way to make money. They see it as an actual sport that will be covered and shown on television because they care a lot about what you're doing. In the US, it's if you're not Serena Williams, if you're not the fact that Sophia Kenin won the US Open, not the US Open, excuse me, the Australian Open, and then it just seems like no one gets how big of a deal that is.
Sure. Yeah.
And
well, especially in our media here in the
in our
States,
media too. It doesn't feel like that because Coco Gauff is getting more attention. She has won one WTA title. Serena Williams is getting the attention, even though she hasn't won a Grand Slam in 3 years. Venus Williams they'll even talk about because it's Venus Williams, but she hasn't been playing. She's mostly been dealing with business investments with K-Swiss and everything else. So it's like, how do we get our media to promote that next generation, especially on the men's side as well? It's like during the Grand Slams, we'll cover and we'll show your highlights, but that's it. Like, we won't talk about it. There won't be like a show on Sports Center talking about it. I'll talk about it.
Sure.
Cracked Rackets will talk about it. Everyone else, like Gameful of Podcasts, all these people that I know will talk about it, but big media outlets will never give them the chance.
Well, and I think that's just an uphill battle. I don't think that's going to change, and I think it's an uphill battle that the only reason they would ever cover Kenin would be is if she won multiple championships, multiple Grand Slams, and so that's unfortunately the reality of it. I hope that she gets to that, or a young player from the States does do that, so that it does bring more recognition to the sport statewide. But talking about the success on a professional level is one thing. Let's bring it back a little bit more locally. You, my friend, just won a UTR tournament.
I did.
Yeah, there's that winner smile right there. There's a champion smile right there. I know you had not played a tournament in a while, and so I know that you were excited about it. I know you documented your time training and going through it and going through the day. And your eventual win. So congratulations on that.
Thank
My
you.
big question for you, and that I'd love for our listeners to hear, is what allows you, if you had one secret to success on the court, what would it be, and how could our players take your advice and apply it to their game?
Wow, you make me sound like an actual professional. It's no way, shape, or form.
Like
that's the answer. It's weird. For me, consistency is key. Whether it's not necessarily on court and getting balls back and forth. It's your routine. It's how you treat your body. And I don't practice what I preach, but this is something that I just constantly tell to juniors. It's taking care of your body, making sure you're stretching, making sure you ice, rest, heat, everything. Because if you play so much, and that was one of the problems I had as a junior, I started playing so much that I started getting problems in my shoulder, getting problems in my knees, getting problems in my IT band. and I still feel it because I don't know why. It's you just
You're
have to
getting
make
old.
sure. Oh, shut up.
40 is super close, man. Don't you worry.
Ooh, okay, no. Panic attack coming in. Um, I just think it's you have to realize how consistent you have to be on the court and off the court, and that's my advice to juniors. And I would say another thing is the mental game. Like I as a kid, what I was a hothead. Like if I saw my if I showed you my junior racket right now, it's like very tilted because of how much I threw it. And my parents didn't like watching me because I was just a mess. But by the time I was 16, 17, 18, like I would still get mad, but I learned how to control it. And I think a lot of kids need to focus on, okay, how can I mentally be tough against other kids? Because I've been
Yep.
saying, like, I see juniors in our clinics that are so good, that are so talented, and have the ability to play up a level and play against kids that are older than them. But then they'll lose 2 points in a row and will start dropping their racket or like screaming. And it's just like, I'll be teaching a lesson on 3 courts away and I just want to yell, shut up, because
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. It's like, one, this is practice. Two, it doesn't matter. Just work on what you need to work on. If it doesn't work, keep doing it until you get it
I
right.
think I think that's a really, as far as, analyzing in the junior aspect, but also, just, across adult players, especially players that have been competing for a long time and they're almost kind of stuck in where their game is at. I think it's hard sometimes for people to separate, the training and getting better aspect from the competition side. You get players that are super competitive and they end up, being stagnant in their growth because they're so worried about winning that
Yeah.
they will sacrifice other things that they need to work on to to win at all costs, as
Yeah.
opposed to going out there and saying, hey, look, win, lose, or draw today, I'm going to get better. And this is
Yeah.
how I'm going to do it. Whether it's, let's just say it's, a focus on movement or whatever, or a focus on a situation, and going out there and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to see this situation, or I'm going to do this 25 times when I'm out there.
Yeah.
How many times out of that 25 times did I do it correctly? And then walking off the court and saying, you know what, I did it 20 out of 25 times, and that's 10 times better than I did the last time.
Yeah.
Those are players that are going to get better quicker. But I also think it's on the coach or the trainers to make sure that they're communicating that well to the players, because it's very easy for us to be on the outside and say, hey, you know what, yeah, shut up, be quiet, how could you not do this? But at the same time, I think it's hard, especially for a junior player. I not that my son is getting into any competition right now, but he's 5 years old, and like, he'll throw a fit if he loses anything.
Yeah.
And it's like
Well,
that,
that's hard to teach at such a young age because
oh,
they don't
absolutely.
they don't grasp that there's more to it. They don't get the bigger
Right. So,
picture.
yep. Yeah. So like setting goals that aren't about winning and losing, that are setting goals more like, numbers based or whatever. Hey, we're going to get to this, or we're going to do that. Though I think those are good systems or resources, as far as coaches goes for training. For me on my side, I would probably address more. I love the mental aspect of it as far as being consistent and doing things. I think for me, I coach a lot of adults. I coach a lot of high level adults, 4-0 and up, 4-5 players. A lot of what I stress and really try to focus on with them is their decision making and understanding that, if you're in a defensive position, that you should be hitting defensive shots,
Yeah.
and making great decisions, and that comes from the mental aspect of it. Understanding, hey, you know what, although I am 5 feet behind the baseline and I feel like I can win the point by hitting a winner down the line, maybe it's not the best shot to do in those situations. So I think
Yeah.
that's a difficult thing for players to do. I always equate it, whether you're a Tom Brady fan or not. I'm lucky enough to watch him for the last 20 years over in New England. But one of the things that made him so great was his decision making. If it wasn't there, he wasn't taking it. He'd throw the ball away before taking a sack, and those are really good attributes to have and good decision makers. And that that leads directly to success on the court.
Exactly.
In my aspect of things. So yeah, I mean, hopefully our players are working on that mental aspect, because it's not the easiest thing to work on. It's much more easy. It's much more tactile to go on a court and say, hey, I practice forehands and all this stuff. But I think that, whether you're a junior player or whether you're an adult player, every single time you're on the court, it gives you an opportunity. It gives you a platform to practice these mental things as well. But it has to be self-driven,
Yeah, it has to be. You need to want it more than us telling you what works and what doesn't.
Sure. Yeah, so quickly wrapping up today, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that are going on at the club this holiday season.
Go for it.
We have some holiday promotions going on as far as the pro shop or lessons here at the club.
Fantastic.
I think that giving an experience as opposed to a tactile gift is a great alternative to just buying something and putting it under the tree. So we have some awesome options for whether you're just you have somebody in your family that's looking to get into the club and you wanted to give them a private lesson along with a new racket, or you're looking to get better, or your wife or husband is looking to get better, or your kid is looking to get better. They want to spend time with the ball machine, to restringing and getting another, and like I said, retooling your game with a private lesson. We have a bunch of different options at the club. So I encourage all you guys listening to check out those. They're on our website. They're on our social media. You can also come into the club to check out what's happening there. So I think that's pretty cool. We also have some new pickleball open times that we're pushing on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the mornings. Betsy is running those. Like I said, Betsy Hulme, our new resident pickleball pro. She'll be helping, develop those. And we've got some open court time specials coming up once we are off programming. I believe not this week, but the following week as our program's finished there. So just a lot of exciting things to do. And then I know that you are going to actually head up and hopefully bring some UTR tournaments and leagues possibly to the club. Can you touch upon that real quick?
Yeah, for sure. I think UTR, Universal Tennis Rating, is something that's very popular now, and it's a way to rate players and their level compared to everyone else, whether you are a 40-year-old teacher pro at Milford or you're a 16-year-old kid in high school. UTR will help you find someone around the same level no matter what your age is. So your skill levels based on their data can help you find someone to play with or match up against. So I'm hoping to bring those kind of tournaments here to the club, and I'm hoping,
awesome,
cross your fingers, that we can get an ITA, a college level tournament here, and bring some of the best talent, not just from Connecticut, but maybe from New Jersey, so that way, or New York, just to keep it closer and centered towards where we are, so that way we don't get too many kids from out of state traveling inwards, because again, we're in a pandemic. We're still trying to be safe. So I'm hoping that we can get something like that here, so that way we can have, maybe even stream it, get some match play onto the Milford YouTube channel as well as our socials. So it would be a benefit for everyone as well as the kids.
Great. Well, no, super excited for that. That'll be great to do, and to bring people together, in a different format, unlike the USTA, a little bit different. So that'll be nice to do. One quick other note for all you guys out there, starting in January, we will be also bringing you a ton of instructional content to this website, which we are very excited about. We've been hard at work recording some instructional videos that we will release on a weekly basis for juniors, adults, pickleball players, all alike. So we're very excited to do that. Philip will be part of it. I will be part of it. Our resident staff as well. We'll also be doing a series on Frank Lorenzetti. We'll bring that to you as far as the owner and what we're trying to accomplish here at the club and as a local community that offers tennis and pickleball. Just trying to bring us all together. So very excited for that. I have to run. I know you do as well, Philip. I wish everybody out there a very, very happy holidays. I hope that you're able to connect with friends and family. Be safe. wash your hands, as this young man, not an old man, always preaches to tell you. And don't forget to, let's see, what is it? Like, subscribe, share,
and comment.
and comment. Yes, comment. Please let us know how we're doing over here at the club. We'd love to hear your reactions and touch base with you out in the digital world they call the WWW.
Let us know what,
Yeah.
and we're still looking for that title, guys. We're still looking for what our show should be named. So
Yeah,
please leave a
absolutely.
comment down below. Let us know on Facebook, Instagram, here on the channel as well on this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I hope everyone stays safe. Wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart. Hope everyone's having a great day. Take care, guys.